Dear students, let us make a discussion on 30th December 2016 newspaper. The first article is Goodbye Barack by Gopal Krishna Gandhi. It talks about what are the contributions of President Obama to United States, to the world, and what are the learnings for India from the same. In the US, he made the country to reflect on its own self. His views on race, religion, and ethnicities, gun culture, everything made Americans to think about its own way of life. And the second is, he was able to reconciliate between the groups. He has repeatedly reminded to the world and America that we are one single race, that is humanity. So, in this context, he has strongly affirmed himself in his African American roots, but also acknowledged the concerns of the whites. That showed that his attitude towards the tolerance, pluralism, etc. And coming to the world, he has shown the path of reconciliation. His visit to Hiroshima and recent Shinzo Abe and President Obama's visit to Pearl Harbor that shows that wounds of the history can be healed only through reconciliation. And in India, we have many divides, many problems. We also need to reflect on ourselves. What is the way we are moving forward? So, the very important lesson which President Obama taught to Americans is very much necessary for India too. Then, on to the other side, because of this neoliberalism and that is globalization, the American working class faced a huge stress. The President Obama failed to take this into cognizance, which has ultimately has given rise to the rise of Trump to the office. So we have to see how the Trump's presidency will be moving forward, and whatever the reconciliation of President Obama will be stopped or else will be opposed by the divides of the Trump. We have to wait and see. And coming to Sasikala rising, so I don't want to talk about the Tamil Nadu and its politics here. So the personality cult is there in Indian politics. Miss Rudolph and Rudolph, they spoke about the politics of Charishma and Darshan in India. So what they say about is there is centralization of the politics and personality cult high in Indian political scenario. So the very rise of Miss Sasikala into politics in AIADMK reflects this personality cult and also high command politics and Charishma and Darshan in India. Peace on track in Colombia. Now, the revolutionary forces, armed forces in Colombia are in negotiations with the government and a peace deal has come into existence. Later, a referendum was conducted and the rightist political party is very much opposed to this referendum, saying that too many concessions were being given to these revolutionary forces. Now, Mr. Santos, he was awarded the Nobel Prize, and after that, the things has got changed, and there was a moral strength. The Nobel Prize has given to the efforts of Mr. Santos, and now a law is being passed in the Congress there or Parliament there to provide the amnesty to these rebels. So, especially with regard to the minor criminal activities. Added to that, there are other demands for revolutionary forces. These are bringing in agrarian reforms and also mainstreaming them into the politics. So, we can see that there is a chance for the peace in Colombia where more than 2 million people have lost their lives. And coming to notes to remember. So, let's call it as this way. In India, we have attempted for demonetization. So, is Indian society prepared for the same is the question. If you take American society, elderly and then Hispanic Americans, African Americans, and added to that, the people working in insecure jobs with lower incomes, they use more the cash than the others. And in India, the situation is no different. The rural, elderly people, they will be using the cash. In the United States, the access to digital transactions is widespread. In spite of that, people reliance on the cash has did not come down. So cash gives you a sense of a confidence because it is readily exchangeable. Now the second thing is, In India, we are having around 12% of cash to GDP ratio. Compared to Brazil and other countries, the India's cash to GDP ratio is very high. And it is one of the reasons stated as for corruption. And the third thing is this high cash management, it is also leading to huge cost around 21,000 crores, and it do not include the cost of the black economy, corruption, etc. on the Indian economy. And so, if India has to move towards digitalization, the cashless economy, the first thing is we need to provide for reliable, affordable access to cashless transactions everywhere. So, till that is been made possible, transforming India into a low cash economy or a cashless economy is very difficult. Talking to the children about untouchability. Now, generally, we have this prejudice that when rural and urban areas are compared, the rural areas have greater prejudice towards the lower caste. And similarly, young and old are compared. Old have greater practice of untouchability compared to young. But in a survey, what it has been demonstrated is there is no much difference between rural urban areas, older people and younger people in the upper caste in their practice of untouchability. Now we have important learnings with regard to this from the United States of America. There, what happened is when the children are taught about the sufferings of the African Americans due to discrimination, it made the people to stop, the next generations to stop from practicing this untouchability. So, practicing this racial discrimination. If we are also able to talk about the untouchability and its negative consequences to all our children, definitely it will make a difference. In this case, mother, teacher, everyone can play an impactful role. And when the discrimination and the child's learning about untouchability, it starts from his home. When a maid is being differentiated, that's where the untouchability starts. So, the untouchability need to be discussed and its consequences to be explained to the people, and the roots of this untouchability have to be addressed through education of the younger minds. And coming to the banks to remain risk aversive. The financial stability report, what it says is the bank's health is not yet improved in India. Though they have received greater funds at their disposal, the non-performance assets of the banks are still worrisome in India. And then most of the public sector banks have the greater non-performance assets as they have liberally financed the infrastructure during the UPA 2 government. RBI's autonomy is back in focus. Now, here what are the achievements? The first thing is inflation targeting has come up. Monetary Policy Committee is established. But however, the demonetization issue has brought back the RBI's autonomy. Because any demonetization, the decision has to be taken by RBI board. Now, so RBI board has met for just before 1 hour, the Prime Minister has announced for the demonetization. It means how thoroughly it is discussed. Added to that, many of the positions on the RBI's board are vacant. So this shows that RBI did not have much deliberation on the demonetization. So that brings back the RBI's autonomy and assertion of the RBI boards of its autonomy back into discussion. Now coming to the world, Syria truce deal signed, says Putin. So in this context, the Syria, and then on this issue, the Russia, Iran, and then Mr. Erdogan's Turkey, these are in discussion. The Turkey wants the Assad to go, but Iran supports them. Russia wants to keep the state structure intact. So now a truce has been signed, a ceasefire agreement has come into existence. According to them, any of the opposition rebels who are not coming into the ceasefire agreement, they will be regarded as the terrorists and the state can attack them. So, the Turkey is coming into this picture is a positive sign. Previously, a truce deal is signed between US and Russia, but the things did not move forward. But now, we can see some hope for peace in Syria. And now coming to, for China, an year of purge and unity. So, China, if we observe, the economic crisis was one thing, and second, the rise of Xi Jinping and declaring him as the core leader, which was given only to the Mao, that shows that the entire Communist Party is getting organized surrounding Mr. Xi. And added to that, the China and American rivalry is getting deepening, not just in the South China Sea. Now it has been spread even into Taiwan, and during the presidency of Trump, the things are expected to go worse much. The Russia-Iran deepened the ties with Taliban. Though Russia denies this, Russia, Pakistan and China are conducting the negotiations with the Taliban for a stable Afghanistan. China needs that for its One Belt One Road initiative to extend it to Central Asia, then to the Europe. And then the Russia also wants to maintain the back channels with Taliban. So that bring back the nightmare that is the great game has come back again. And then, if you talk about an identity crisis for the UK, there are two important things. One is Brexit, and then a vote or a referendum on Scotland's autonomy and freedom. These were into discussion. So, with regard to Brexit, yes, UK people have voted in favor of it, but does it need a parliamentary approval or not? The court has to decide. And Brexit proceedings can only be initiated then after. If Article 50 has to be put into place, does it need to be a soft separation or a hard separation? Soft separation means, so as like Norway, is that going to gain the economic benefits by paying certain fees to the European Union? Or it's going to sever all the relations with the European Union? We need to observe. So as per the experts, mostly it will be a soft landing for the UK. And then the Scotland has voted in favor of the Brexit, and the Scotland again started demanding for its autonomy and continuing its relations with the European Union as like in the previous situation. So indirectly it is posing itself for a demand of autonomy from UK, and then more than autonomy, independence from UK. And then the political parties are also suffering a bit. And in the case of the Labour, Jeremy Corbyn's leadership was not accepted. So there are problems everywhere in UK, and this Brexit plan is also creating huge administrative work out there. Now coming to the notes, I gave you some notes. Again, I made a small write-up that last year we have practiced for the interview preparation this way, and we are able to increase the total scores at least by 22 percentile. So this year, again, we want to expand the scope of this question making and understanding of the things. I request the students who have finished their mains to start an early practice. Most of us will be relaxing now and will be starting after a month, but we will not be having enough time then. So request you to participate and start preparing as quick as possible. And I also started giving notes, but I want the students to think on these lines so that you can generate the answers for the question. And I will appreciate if you are able to write an answer for the question of the day. And I will take some time to correct these answers. At least one or two answers I will correct, and it gives me a motivation to post a model answer and make a small video on how to present the answer in that context. So if your participation is high, it also makes me to motivate and do greater work. Thank you very much and all the best.